Hello, hello, neighbors. How are you today? This is Aluminum Tarot. We're going to be doing the Black Mirror spread, continuing with this experimental spread for the sign of Libra, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. So what this spread does, before we get started, is it tries to peer into some of the energies that revolve around narcissistic or toxic relationships. And if you've had to deal with one recently, or someone with someone in the past, this will give you some insights into what kind of lesson that relationship taught you. And additionally, it's a chance for you to kind of move past the energies that may have been keeping you stuck within that, and allow you the chance to kind of see things from a bird's eye perspective and hopefully heal and tackle those energies. So once again, if you like what you see here, please give a like, share, and subscribe. Please ding the notification bell. And if you would like a personal reading, please reach out to me in the website included in the description box below. Avoid scammers. Enough said about that. We're going to just jump right into this. So again, the reason why this is called a Black Mirror spread is because we look at the narcissist or the toxic person as a mirror to you. They teach you all the things about yourself that you are afraid to look at. And it's a chance for you to encounter and to face your shadow self. And so these lessons do have a good sense of value within them. And they do come into our lives for a specific purpose, to teach us, not necessarily to destroy us, but to make us stronger. And oftentimes people will encounter these types of people until the lesson is learned. I speak from experience, and I'm creating this spread so that I can teach everyone as best as possible what I know. So that said, we're going to jump right into this for Libra, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Black Mirror spread for Libra, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Black Mirror spread for Libra, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Black Mirror spread for Libra, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Black Mirror spread for Libra, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. And one more for good luck. Okay, so this is quite a rather large spread, so I'll just walk you through the entire process. First, we're going to start with the lesson. Lesson. How did the relationship begin? How did the relationship progress? And how did the relationship end? So, what was the initial attraction to the narcissist, to the toxic person? What was the intention of the person? What was the issue of codependency? The other issue of codependency on the partner side? So what was the... Where are we going? Yes, okay, there we go. What is the issue with coping? Yeah, coping mechanism. What was the abuse tactic on the other person's part? So, how did you begin to distance yourself? How did the person gaslight, control or manipulate you to staying? Finally, how did you protect yourself from the relationship? Finally, how were you discarded? Okay, so we have at the bottom of the deck 5 of Swords reverse, which means that this is a time where you wanted to just kind of lay down the conflict and eventually avoid it altogether. This may have been a relationship that exhausted you, taught you a lot about your boundaries and limitations and people trying to win at all costs against you. So you had to kind of set firm boundaries with a lot of people, especially the person in dealing with this specific relationship. Now, I'm going to angle the camera down so that we can see the cards a bit better. So in looking at this spread, what we have here in the lesson is we have the Ten of Pentacles reverse. This is a lesson in learning how to know what to commit to. And specifically speaking, was this commitment worthwhile for your time, energy, and resources? The Ten of Pentacles being, 10 of resources, value, wealth, things that you invest in, and the amount of effort that you put towards something in the physical realm. So in saying that, what you were trying to do is learn what is commitment to you. And should you commit to something? Should you not commit to something? Normally, if this is in the other person's energy, this would be a non-committal card. Or it can be a fall from grace. Typically, the Ten of Pentacles reverse can be a fall from grace, fall from status. And specifically, this is done because of a mismanagement of these said resources. So that going into it, you have the way this began is the Eight of Pentacles reversed. This is a bit of a tricky interpretation, but the way I would look at it is this is a person who essentially, you're at a time where you didn't really want to work on love. And I think at the particular point, you just kind of wanted to be by yourself. You didn't want to make much of an effort towards any kind of relationships, or maybe the person you were dealing with did not want to do it. And perhaps this relationship came together because it was either casual in the beginning, or, just led to the sense that, there were no expectations, I see. So if you have the 10 plus the 8, that of course equals 18, that's 9 of Pentacles. So 2 of you were being very single and independent when you first came together. Now that was acting in the positive. In acting in the negative, you have 10 minus 8, that's 2 of Pentacles. Both of you were juggling each other. And essentially what that meant is that you were, you were just kind of an option to one another. That's how the relationship started. Now, that said, we go into how the relationship continued and progressed. It was the Three of Cups reverse. We all know what that means. Someone was dipping in other people's cookie jars, and essentially this became a relationship with a lot of people involved. And it became toxic due to the fact that there were too many people in the energies and in the relationship. So if this Libra is dealing with someone, perhaps, and I will come out and say it, perhaps you have to learn how to commit properly in the proper situations. Because the Libra in question here probably entered this relationship thinking that they were just going to be able to play around or play the field. And they kind of got a dose of their own medicine, or we'll see as later, they entered into a relationship that was mirroring their energy at the time and essentially caused them some strife because they were being forced to face their shadow side, which was not something that they wanted to face at that time because of the nature of the relationship initially, which meant it was supposed to be a casual relationship. Now it kind of becomes like a a twin flame relationship, it seems. We'll see if there's any evidence of twin flame, but that's as we go through the spread. Finally, towards the end of the relationship, there was a decision to kind of drop the relationship. And I think that, one or the other person in this kind of toxic cesspit of a relationship, they realized that perhaps this wasn't worth investing in or planning into long term in the future. Perhaps the two of you realized that this wasn't worth planning for, and they just dropped it. Normally in the upright, the person is planning, they're working towards the future, they're making goals, setting, ambitious targets for themselves. In the reverse, they're dropping that. They're giving up. They're just like, nah, I'm not interested. So that's it. We're going to go into the initial attraction. We have the initial attraction is the Page of Cups. So for the Libra in question here, they were basically not interested in an actual love relationship. Perhaps they were closed off emotionally to any love options when this person came in. And this eventually led to just a kind of casual, let's see where it goes kind of relationship. I'll pull another card just to see. Yep, Page of Wands, reverse. They weren't looking for anything serious. These are two pages. This is the Page of Fire, the Page of Water. Both the emotions and the passion were very immature in the beginning of this relationship. And I don't think that this particular Libra was looking for something long-term at all. They weren't looking for anything serious either. And to an extent, they weren't looking for anything stable because there's no earth. There's no earth in this at all. Also, when the pages are in the reverse, there is no communication, or there is strained communication or little to no communication. So perhaps the person was a little bit mealy-mouthed when they met the person that they were supposed, that they were with in this relationship, and they held back, maybe kept some secrets, things of that nature, or just didn't really express themselves properly. It's very immature energy here. Looking at the side here, with the person that you're dealing with, you have the Empress and the Death reversed. So their intention was not for this relationship to end. Perhaps they could have had something in the past that was plaguing them a bit, but I see that they did kind of come with good intentions because they did want this relationship to grow. They do have the Empress card here, and that is a very powerful card for an intention. It's a very positive intention. Now, looking into this, the very fact that the Empress did not want this relationship to end shows that they came in there with positive intentions initially. I think the Libra here in question just kind of was looking for something quick and didn't really care about growing and expanding with this person, whereas the person they met did. So looking into, however, the codependency issues, there are some strong ones here. So for the Libra here, you have the King of Wands. Perhaps this is a person who goes after what they want, but it could also just simply be a player, because this is a codependency. They need to feel in charge. They need to be in control. They need to get their needs met. They will play the field. They will explore options, and so on and so on. And they're not really afraid of getting burnt, because the salamanders here in this card show a person who is not afraid to touch the fire. And unfortunately, in the areas of love, it can burn other people instead. When we look at the person that the Libra here is dealing with, we have the Ace of Pentacles reversed, and this is a person who just did not see their full worth, despite being the Empress. They were codependent in the Ace of Pentacles reverse because they needed to get their sense of self-worth from other people, external relationships. And unfortunately, this is the wrong way to approach things. Even if they're an abundant person, if they don't believe they're abundant, they're going to continue to encounter situations where people do not respect or honor the value that they're bringing to the relationship. This is a very important thing because often, too many times, people enter relationships expecting for other people to give them what they're seeking when they already have that quality within themselves. They just need to recognize it. Typically, these types of people will seek out relationships for their own happiness. They'll seek out relationships to make themselves feel better, to give them some kind of external validation, when in fact that's not necessary. And that actually leads to more problems because the person here is unable to fulfill those desires. When you look for your sense of self-worth and value in another person, you are destined to fail, because then that relationship has to balance itself out by showing you what you believe about yourself, and that is simply a person who doesn't care about you, a person who does not value your worth, a person who does not show you equal give and take. And you're faced with that because the universe wants you to see that this is how you view yourself. So the universe has no choice but to show you what you believe about yourself, and that is why beliefs are very powerful. Oftentimes, the state of affairs in the relationship department, especially in today's modern world, is the seeking of external validation from other people. And this is why, in my opinion, relationships are doomed to die off and go the way of the dodo, because people have failed with all their technology, with all their access to new groups of people, to determine their actual value. You always hear, oh, I'm a high value man, or I'm a high value woman, blah, 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 blah. They don't really value themselves because they need that external validation from other people to determine how they see themselves. And that is absolutely the wrong way to go about things. Moving on, getting off my soapbox. Well, let's continue. So, what we look at next are the coping tactics, the coping mechanisms of this particular relationship. Now, the Chariot as a coping mechanism indicates to me someone who runs away when faced with difficulties within the relationship, because the Chariot moving forward as a coping tactic essentially just means that a person is just going to look for the next opportunity to escape, to find a new source of validation, find a new source of happiness, and instead of confronting the situation head on. This is the Emperor in this Chariot, and is driven by the forces of the universe, which are the positive and negative sphinxes here in the black and white, and is covered by the firmament and the star as the crown of, the Emperor, leaving the city to seek out new things. So in essence, I think that this person essentially, the Libra in question, when things got tough, they coped with it by seeking things outside the relationship. So this could have immediately happened when the person felt, maybe they weren't good enough, maybe, it was better for them to find a new source because this source was too difficult, because initially they didn't want to put in the work anyway. They didn't want a difficult relationship where they had to build something. They wanted something that was a bit easier and more lighthearted or immature, and unfortunately that doesn't work when you find a deep soul bond with someone. Now, looking at this particular card, this is the abuse tactic, or potentially the coping mechanism of the person on the other side. Now, this is the Nine of Swords. Now, if this is an abuse tactic, what this person may have done is become quite erratic. They may have, communicated their stresses, their worries, their fears and anxieties to the Libra. They may have been up late at night crying about things. They may have shown that they were emotionally distraught. or, you know, maybe they caused you to feel that way, potentially by triggering things within you, the Libra, such as fears of abandonment, fears of exile, fears of, you know, the future. Whatever your fears were, their actions triggered that deeply within you and forced you to have a dark night of the soul, because that's essentially what's happening here. 9 swords put up against the wall. You have basically a character here under the quilt who was unable to rest deep and late at night. So potentially during the day you were okay, but at night this kept you up quite a bit. And there were many restless nights, potentially even today. So this is something that you should potentially make note of. This to me feels like a twin flame relationship, because there are triggering aspects within this, especially on the side of the person that you were dealing with. This person triggered some deep-seated fears within you. And I think that they knew that whatever they would do would get to you in that way. So, quite heavy energy, but it's important that we understand that, so that way we can then move beyond it, heal it, and then carry on. Next up, distancing yourself. Perhaps you were just waiting for a new relationship to come in. You decided to turn your back on the relationship and look elsewhere for your, for your new partner or person. This is, of course, another 3 card. You know, typically when you have 3s, like the 3 of Cups reversed, the 3 of Wands, this indicates a third party. So, of course, you were looking for an external person to come back in. Now, Libras, I will say this. As Librans, you may have difficulty with fear of being alone, the constant need for a validation from other people, you know, to give you a sense of self-worth, because Libras being the detriment in the sun, they are unable to articulate themselves as an independent entity because they need relationships. Now, of course, when we look at the deck, we have several different cards. The Empress here, a Libra card. We have Strength, which is a Leo. Then we have Cancer from the Chariot. Then we have a lot of Earth energy. Earth energy, Earth energy, Earth energy, Earth energy. And then the King of Pentacles reversed is also Earth energy as well. So this is a person who probably has some Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, or you were dealing with a Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn in the past. And this is the person who has essentially dredged up some old wounds from the past. Yeah. Looking further into this, the way that the person then tried to respond to this, I suppose you were waiting for some new ships to come in, probably exploring new options. The person you were dealing with then gave up. They dropped the relationship because this is the Strength reversed. They decided to let go of the relationship. They decided to distance themselves, detach, because they felt that it wasn't really worth the effort. And unfortunately, maybe then they did see their worth. You know, you did have the Ace of Pentacles for your person, and this person just decided to give up. So that actually was the discard, because we'll talk about, you know, the last 2 cards here. The last 2 cards, you know, the one for you as to how you protected yourself is you just essentially buried yourself in work. And this is the King of Pentacles here. And for you, being the Libra, you know, if one part of the scales tips to one side, you're going to try to force it to tip to the other side by adding things to it. So you added your work. and other preoccupations and things of that nature. So you go from the Eight of Wands, you don't want to work on the relationship, but you're willing to work yourself to death to not think about the relationship. I don't know how that really works, but essentially I guess it works for you. Yeah. So you buried yourself in work. You buried yourself. You were probably a bit scattered, disorganized, and you just detached yourself by doing anything to keep your mind off of this particular relationship, because essentially it did put you in your head, did trigger that Nine of Swords energy that this person triggered within you. And for your person, they have the Ace of Wands reverse. They discarded you just by simply losing interest. They cut you out. And I mean, this is the first spread that I'm looking at where I kind of empathize a little bit with the person on the right. How can they show interest to you when you're already looking for options elsewhere? This is not a balanced relationship. Despite you being a Libra, you know, if you're going to explore options, you're going to manifest that by making this person lose interest and they're no longer an option. So you see how the scales balance that way. Sometimes when you're afraid of something, when you're afraid of deeper intimacy, depending on whether you've been hurt in the past or just naturally a person who doesn't really care too much for deep, meaningful relationships, you tend to manifest what you're afraid of by taking courses of action that lead the other person to believe that they're not valued. And perhaps this is less of a narcissistic relationship than it is a toxic, codependent relationship. And there are hard lessons to learn about monogamy, potentially. There are lessons to learn about commitment and what to commit to and what to build a legacy on. These cards here, none of these cards, other than maybe the King of Pentacles reverse, indicate at all working for a kind of permanence. What they show is a failure to develop anything long-lasting. Potentially, and this is one thing, because this is the Ten of Pentacles reverse, this could indicate someone who has dropped a marriage, who has been divorced, because this long-term commitment is in the reverse. Now it's the Ten of Pentagrams now. It's no longer the Ten of Pentacles. So this indicates a legacy based on vice as well. Pentagrams being, the five senses and kind of the inversion of the pentacle, which shows the man and his higher consciousness. The pentagram indicates the lower natures. So it's like you're potentially building a legacy based on lust or greed or avarice, or, well, greed and avarice are the same, but you get the idea. This is a very interesting way of looking at it. There's one last card I need to take, which is how you closed out the cycle. You closed out the cycle by avoiding a disaster, or at least what you thought was a disaster. So you have the Tower reverse. You basically cut yourself off, pretended everything was okay, buried yourself in work, and then you had that everything is fine kind of attitude, where the dog is burning in this room, that's completely on fire, and he's just sat there having a cuppa and not really paying attention to the destruction around them. And that destruction is essentially the relationship burning to the ground. Now, I'll be frank with you and honest. The intentions coming in here, your intentions as the Libra, the energies could be vice versa, so take it as it resonates. But I'm looking at the Libra side here, and these intentions were just to play the field, to not have anything serious. We have the King of Wands here. We have the Chariot as the coping tactic to run away. You have waiting for new options to come in and burying yourself in work. This is a game player right here, this Libra. And then the other side, whoever you were dealing with, they came in with good intentions. They didn't want it to die, but they did not see their worth. And perhaps when they did finally see their worth in this relationship, they just decided to drop it and move on to other things. But truly consider these types of behaviors in the future, not to nag you or to wag my finger at you like a bad Libra, no biscuit. Try to understand how your actions affect other people, and try not to run away good options that come into your life. If you're non-committal, just be upfront about that in the beginning. You don't need to play games. There are plenty of people who are willing to fuck others if it's known up front that I'm not looking for anything serious. People would gladly meet you on Tinder, shag you out a few times, and then leave it at that. You don't have to play games. You don't have to fail to communicate and leave things uncertain, which I'm sure that the person that you were dealing with probably felt that way. Something tells me to pull a Monology card. Something is telling me to do this for some reason. Yeah, a new romantic cycle begins. New moon in Libra. And it's in the reverse. If we were to take this upright, well, your card did come out. Something told me to take that. But in order for this new romantic cycle to begin, a truly romantic cycle, you have to embrace the light of the lessons that you have learned. If you're feeling currently like this relationship was unfair, feeling down, you're blocking out the light that needs to come into your life. You have to first take accountability. You then have to heal from the relationship, and then you have to accept and show gratitude for it. This is something that Rich Locke talks about, something that other tarot card readers talk about, this process of healing. But for you, it is important to let that light shine within your life, and allow that to illuminate from the lesson that you have learned. I don't want to be too harsh or too critical, but you will have romance, true romance, when you are no longer obscuring the facts in your relationship. Be upfront as much as possible with people in the beginning. There's no need to play games. There are plenty of people who love to fuck with no strings attached, but don't go breaking people's hearts if their intentions are way different than yours. And conversely, on the other person's half, if they come in with intentions of being more serious, they need to be clear about that in the beginning. So at least you can agree to disagree, and the relationship can dissolve before any intimacy takes place, or before there are any mixed signals thrown. It can save a lot of headaches and a lot of trouble if we do that in the beginning. So that's where I'm going to leave it today. Thanks again. This has been Aluminum Tarot. I'm so happy to have you guys join for the reading this time. This has been the Black Mirror spread for Libra, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. If you like what you see here, please like, share, and subscribe, and ding the notification bell. Also, if you like free personal readings? If you like a personal reading, kindly reach out to me at the information in the description box below. And until then, have a lovely evening. Bye now.